How I became a fluent English speaker. Hi, everyone. I want to start by taking you back to a moment that changed my life. I was 16 years old, sitting in a room full of people who spoke fluent English. It was a seminar at my school, and the guest speaker was from another country. As he spoke, I couldn't understand more than a few words. I looked around and saw my classmates nodding, smiling, and even asking questions. I felt so small in that moment, so disconnected. Later that day, I tried to talk to the speaker, but all I could manage were a few broken sentences. I remember how kind he was, but I also remember the frustration I felt at not being able to express myself. That was the moment I realized how important English is, not just for passing exams, but for truly connecting with people and opportunities around the world. From that day on, I made a decision. I would learn English and I would become fluent. Importance of English fluency. Now, why is English so important? Think about it. English is often called the global language. It's the language of science, business, and entertainment. If you want to study abroad, chances are your classes will be in English. If you want to work for a multinational company, English will likely be a requirement. Even if you just want to travel and meet people from different countries, English can help you communicate almost anywhere in the world. For me, English became the key to unlocking doors I didn't even know existed. When I started learning, I discovered a whole new world of books, movies, and music. I could understand online courses and learn new skills. Later, it helped me get my first job, where speaking English gave me an edge over others. It's not just a language. It's a tool that connects you to endless opportunities. Purpose of sharing the story. I'm sharing this story with you today because I know how hard it can be to learn a new language. I've been there. I know the fear of making mistakes, the frustration of not understanding, and the feeling of wanting to give up. But I also know this: if I could do it, so can you. Learning English changed my life. It gave me confidence, it opened doors, and it connected me to the world. I want you to know that no matter where you are starting from, fluency is possible. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to take the first step. In this video, I'll be sharing my journey, my challenges, the strategies that worked for me, and the lessons I learned along the way. My hope is that my story will inspire you to start or continue your own journey to English fluency. Together, we'll break down the barriers and move closer to your goals. So let's take that first step together. Ready? Let's go. My initial struggles with English. Limited exposure. When I first started learning English, I was surrounded by an environment where English wasn't commonly spoken. I lived in a small town where the majority of people spoke a local language, and English was something people only used in very specific situations, like when talking to foreigners or reading signs. It wasn't part of everyday conversations, and there were no opportunities to hear it spoken fluently in daily life. My access to resources was also limited. There were no English-speaking friends, and I didn't have many books in English. The internet, at the time, wasn't as accessible as it is now. I had no easy way to listen to English music, watch English movies, or browse English websites. This made it very hard to learn the language, especially when I wanted to practice my listening and speaking skills. It felt like I was trying to build a bridge without the right materials. The lack of exposure to English in my daily life was one of the biggest challenges I faced in the beginning. I had to rely on what I could learn in school, but even that felt like a slow process. I was learning vocabulary and grammar, but I couldn't use them in real conversations because I didn't have the practice. This lack of exposure made me feel isolated in my learning journey. Fear and lack of confidence. Another major struggle was my fear of speaking. Like many learners, I worried a lot about making mistakes, and this fear kept me from practicing speaking English. I would often find myself in situations where I could have spoken, but I chose to stay quiet instead. I was afraid that others might laugh at me, or that I might sound silly if I got the words wrong. This fear held me back from growing and using the language in real-life situations. I remember a time when I was in a group of people, and they were all speaking English. I knew what they were saying, and I had some ideas of what I wanted to say, but I just couldn't bring myself to speak. I kept thinking, what if I sound strange? What if I make a mistake? The fear of being judged made my throat feel tight, and the words just wouldn't come out. That fear wasn't just about speaking, it also affected my confidence. Every time I made a mistake or couldn't express myself as clearly as I wanted, I felt discouraged. I would wonder if I'd ever really be able to speak like a fluent English speaker. This cycle of fear and self-doubt made it even harder to take the necessary steps toward improving. Missteps and failures. At the start, I tried many different methods to learn English, but not all of them were effective. I relied heavily on rote memorization, thinking that if I could just remember enough vocabulary words and grammar rules, I'd be able to speak fluently. But this approach didn't work for me. I could memorize a list of words one day, but when I tried to use them in a sentence the next day, they just wouldn't come to mind. One of my earliest attempts to learn English involved me sitting with a notebook and copying words over and over. I thought this would somehow help me remember them better, but after hours of repetition, I would find myself forgetting most of the words. This method felt disconnected from real life. I was learning words without understanding how to use them in meaningful conversations. Another failure came when I tried to study English on my own without any structure. I would jump from one topic to the next, picking random lessons without following a clear path. I would learn one grammar rule and then move on to another without really practicing what I had learned. This lack of a structured approach made it difficult to retain anything for the long term. One of the most discouraging moments came when I tried speaking English with a friend who was a native speaker. I had spent weeks learning vocabulary and grammar, but when it came time to speak, I froze. I couldn't remember the words I had studied, and I stumbled through the conversation. My friend was kind, but I could tell I wasn't making any progress. I felt so embarrassed and discouraged. It was a moment that made me question whether I'd ever truly be able to speak English fluently. These early struggles with limited exposure, fear of speaking, and ineffective learning methods were frustrating, but they were also part of my journey. They taught me important lessons that I would later use to develop more effective strategies for learning. The key takeaway from this section is that no journey toward fluency is without challenges. In fact, it's often the struggles that push us to find better ways of learning and growing. Turning points in my journey. Realizing the need for fluency. There was a moment that truly shifted my mindset about learning English. It was during a job interview for a position I really wanted. The interviewer asked me to describe my experiences working with international teams, but I struggled to express myself clearly. I could understand everything they said, but when it was my turn to speak, my words just didn't flow as smoothly. as I wanted. That feeling of being unable to communicate effectively was a wake-up call. I realized that fluency in English wasn't just a bonus. It was essential for my professional growth. In that moment, I made a firm decision. I would become fluent in English. It wasn't enough to just know the basics anymore. I needed to truly master the language, to unlock opportunities, whether for work, travel, or connecting with people worldwide. This realization sparked a renewed commitment to learning. I was determined to overcome the obstacles that had been holding me back and dedicate myself fully to this goal. Finding the right resources. After that realization, I started searching for the right resources that would help me improve. At first, I tried traditional language textbooks, but they didn't hold my attention for long. Then, I discovered language apps that made learning much more interactive and fun. I found platforms that offered vocabulary-building games, grammar lessons, and pronunciation guides. What really helped was finding apps that tailored content to my current level, so I could progress at my own pace. I also turned to online videos where I could hear real conversational English. Watching YouTube channels and TED Talks helped me not only improve my vocabulary, but also understand the rhythm and flow of natural speech. Books became my companion as well. I started with simple novels, and as I grew more comfortable, I moved on to more complex ones. The key was finding a mix of resources that suited my learning style. Some days I preferred listening and speaking practice, while other days, reading or writing felt more rewarding. Meeting mentors and peers. One of the biggest turning points in my journey was connecting with mentors and peers who spoke English fluently. I joined online language exchange groups and found people willing to practice with me. Talking with native speakers helped me gain confidence in real-life conversations. I learned the slang, idioms, and expressions that aren't always taught in textbooks. It made the language feel more alive, and I began to feel like I truly belonged in English-speaking environments. Having supportive peers also made a huge difference. I joined a study group with others who were learning English, and we encouraged each other every step of the way. Whether online or in person, being part of a community made me feel accountable, and it reminded me that I wasn't alone in the process. I realized that language learning is not just about individual effort, but also about being part of a supportive community that pushes you to keep going. Effective strategies that worked for me. Building a strong foundation. When I started my journey to fluency, I knew I needed to focus on the basics. Grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation were essential building blocks. I began by learning the fundamental rules of English grammar, sentence structure, verb tenses, and common phrases. This created a solid foundation that helped me understand how the language worked. For vocabulary, I started with the most common words and phrases that I could use in everyday situations. I didn't try to memorize huge lists of words right away. Instead, I focused on learning words that were relevant to me, words that I could immediately apply in real conversations. Flashcards, language apps, and word-of-the-day calendars helped me build this vocabulary consistently. Pronunciation was another key area. I realized that understanding the meaning of words is one thing, but pronouncing them correctly is just as important. I started listening carefully to how native speakers pronounced words and mimicked them. At first, it was difficult, but with time, my pronunciation improved as I paid more attention to the sounds and rhythm of the language. To keep things simple, I also surrounded myself with beginner-friendly content. I read children's books, watched shows designed for young learners, and practiced listening to simple dialogues. These resources were perfect for easing into the language without feeling overwhelmed. Immersing myself in English. Once I had a basic understanding, I knew I needed to immerse myself in English as much as possible. Watching English movies, TV shows, and listening to podcasts became a daily habit. I started with shows that had clear and slow speech, like educational programs, so I could follow along without getting frustrated. Gradually, I moved to more challenging content, including movies and news broadcasts. This immersion helped me in so many ways. First, it improved my listening comprehension. The more I exposed myself to English, the better I got at understanding different accents and speeds of speech. I also started to notice cultural references, idiomatic expressions, and slang that native speakers used, which added a new layer to my language learning. Podcasts were another great tool. I found podcasts on topics I was interested in, which made learning even more enjoyable. Listening to podcasts helped me get used to hearing English in a natural conversational context, and this made me more comfortable with the flow of the language. Practicing speaking daily. One of the most important strategies I used was to practice speaking every day. At first, I was shy and afraid of making mistakes, but I quickly learned that speaking was key to fluency. I started by talking to myself, even if it felt awkward. I'd narrate my day, describe what I was doing, or talk about my thoughts aloud. This helped me gain confidence in producing English words and sentences. Shadowing was another technique that really helped. I would listen to short audio clips or watch a video and then repeat what I heard immediately after the speaker. This practice helped me improve my pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. It also allowed me to get used to speaking in real time. Reading and writing regularly. Reading and writing were also key components of my learning strategy. I started with simple texts, children's books, short stories, and easy news articles. As I grew more comfortable, I moved on to more complex materials, like novels and academic articles. This gradual increase in difficulty helped me build both my vocabulary and comprehension skills. Writing, especially journaling, played a big role in my fluency. I wrote in English every day, even if it was just a few sentences about my day or my thoughts. This helped me practice structuring sentences and organizing my ideas in English. Writing allowed me to solidify my learning, correct mistakes, and express myself more clearly over time. Advice for English learners. Set clear goals. The first step in learning English is to set clear, specific goals. Ask yourself, why do I want to learn English? Is it for career advancement, travel, or personal growth? Once you have a clear purpose, break it down into smaller, achievable milestones. For example, you could aim to learn 50 new words each week, or have a 5-minute conversation in English every day. Setting these small goals will keep you motivated and give you a sense of accomplishment as you progress. Use diverse resources. To truly master English, it's important to use a variety of learning tools. Don't just rely on textbooks. There are countless resources available to help you improve your skills. Apps like Duolingo or Babbel can help you with vocabulary and grammar. Podcasts, such as The English We Speak or 6 Minute English, are great for improving your listening skills and understanding real-world conversations. Reading books, watching movies, and participating in language exchange programs can help you connect with the culture behind the language. Variety is key to keeping the learning process exciting and engaging. Practice, practice, practice. You won't improve unless you practice regularly. Make it a habit to speak, write, and listen in English every day. Start with simple tasks, like greeting someone in English or writing short sentences about your day. As you get more comfortable, increase the difficulty. Try writing essays, watching movies without subtitles, or having longer conversations. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become. Stay patient and positive. Lastly, remember that learning a language takes time. Don't expect instant results. There will be moments of frustration, but it's important to stay patient and positive. Celebrate small victories, like understanding a new phrase or speaking without hesitation. Keep your end goal in mind and stay focused, even when progress feels slow. You'll get there, one step at a time. By setting clear goals, using diverse resources, practicing regularly, finding support, and staying patient, you'll be well on your way to becoming a fluent English speaker. Keep going. Conclusion. Reflection on the journey. Looking back at my journey from struggling with English to becoming fluent, it's hard to believe how far I've come. There were times when I doubted myself, when I felt like giving up, but those moments were stepping stones on the path to fluency. I remember the frustration of not understanding words, the fear of speaking, and the countless mistakes I made along the way. But each mistake taught me something valuable. Slowly, I started to see progress. I could understand more, speak with more confidence, and express myself clearly. The road wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. I've learned not just a language, but also the importance of perseverance, patience, and a willingness to grow. Encouragement to readers. If you're just starting your own journey to fluency, know this: it's entirely possible. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Fluency doesn't come overnight, but with consistent effort and the right mindset, you'll get there. The key is dedication, showing up every day, practicing, and embracing the process. There will be tough days, but those days will help you grow and become stronger. Keep pushing forward because fluency is within your reach. Call to action. Today is the perfect day to start. If you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Take the first step, whether it's learning a new word, watching an English video, or speaking with someone. The journey may be long, but it will be worth every effort. You have the power to achieve fluency. Don't wait any longer. Start now and see where your hard work can take you. Your future self will thank you for it. Thank you so much for staying with me through my story. I hope my journey to becoming a fluent English speaker has inspired you to start or continue your own. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress every single day. Whether it's practicing for 5 minutes or diving into a full conversation, every step counts. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we learn and grow. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep practicing, keep growing, and remember, you're one step closer to fluency every day. Bye for now.